Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Main events listed on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange this morning, making the company the first to list since the government re-implemented incentives for the junior market. Andrew Lately reports.
While congratulating the main events team on being listed on the junior market, Prime Minister Holness pointed out that his administration champions the idea of helping entrepreneurs to grow.
The existence of a junior market is crucial to the promotion and encouragement of investment in Jamaica's entrepreneurship, employment, and economic development by allowing investors to put capital into legitimate small and medium-sized enterprises.
However, the Prime Minister pointed out that the companies will not be exempt from certain taxes forever. He indicated that the government will impose taxes once the company has grown and is able to pay.
As you grow and you make more money, you can pay more taxes. So the government is making an investment in allowing you to grow and make more money. At that time, we will talk about more taxes. But right now, the objective is to get you to grow.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Audley Shaw, who was also present at the listing ceremony, said opportunities for main events now extends beyond the shores of Jamaica.
It shows economic diversification, it shows uniqueness in marketing, and main event, of course, has the ability now not just to be a local Jamaican company. They can diversify into the region, for instance, and broaden their product offerings as they continue to create wealth.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Lately.
In the meantime, Prime Minister Holness is arguing that there is a link between growing companies and reducing crime. He says the two aren't unrelated, as some people may think. More in this report.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says every aspect of the society is interrelated in some way. He says the mandate of his government is to get it right on every front so that the country can be better overall.
The more you grow, the more people you employ, the more opportunities you create through business, is the less unattached young people whose hands are idle and left for mischief. And so we, in addition to getting the economic plan right, we are also putting in great effort in getting the crime plan right. In fact, Cabinet meets today to finalize the national budget, but to also address some very serious issues having to do with crime.
He encouraged companies to pursue opportunities which will aid in growing their business so that more jobs will be created and the crime rate decreased.
The two things work hand in hand. And so I'm here today to associate with what we consider to be the successful restoration, the justification of the policy. That immediately after we did this, we restored in October. And since then, you've had two.
Potential listings.
Yeah, and now this is the first.
Yes.
So this is a great sign for us, and I want to encourage more companies to consider listing.
In the meantime, General Manager at the JSE, Marley Street Forest, says the JSE anticipates a fair amount of listings this year based on the readiness of some companies.
We should have another 9. And we anticipate that there will be another 9 companies listed on the junior market based on the readiness of the companies to list.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Lately.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, says the government is actively moving to forge new relationships and alliances with emerging markets as part of the economic growth agenda. She says the ministry's overall bilateral strategy for the fiscal year 2017-18 will also focus on strengthening Jamaica's traditional partnerships and maximizing the opportunities that they present. Senator Johnson-Smith says the government is reviewing its network of honorary consular representatives to determine if stronger bilateral ties can be established in the areas of mutual benefit. The minister was addressing heads of diplomatic missions during a ceremony at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in New Kingston yesterday. The function formed part of activities to observe Diplomatic Week 2017, which runs from February 5 to 10 under the theme Growth Through Partnerships. Meanwhile, Senator Johnson Smith says Jamaica is taking steps to ensure the implementation of the WTO Agreement on Trade Facilitation while awaiting entry. She says this includes identifying areas in which support from international development partners will be required for its implementation and establishing a task force on trade facilitation to oversee a successful implementation. The Trade Facilitation Agreement, TFA, is expected to expedite the movement, release, and clearance of goods, including goods in transition. Jamaica confirmed ratification of the TFA in January last year. Minister Johnson Smith says Jamaica has made significant strides in relation to customs modernization and border management and control. She says initiatives in this area continue to be undertaken within the broad context of the Public Sector Transformation and Modernization Program, of which trade and investment facilitation is a main component. Stay with us. We'll have more news after the break. Welcome back. Grace Kennedy Money Services GKMS launched its mobile payment platform GKM Pay yesterday. The service will permit users to execute a range of transactions, including paying bills, topping up phone credit, making peer-to-peer transfers, and receiving Western Union remittances. Anthony Morgan reports.
Grace Kennedy Money Services says its mobile platform GKM Pay comes to market after 2 years of development that included a pilot program. It says the mobile platform is available for smartphones via the app as well as some USSD phones and is available in 3 tiers, bronze, silver and gold, with increasing limits and respective requirements. Grace Kennedy Group CEO Don Webby says the platform is one of the better products produced by the company in a long time.
I want to start off by really recognizing the team, the Grace Kennedy team, the GKMS team, who have worked really, really hard at this point. And I want to publicly recognize all of you and say I'm so proud that you have delivered this really game-changing service with best-in-class security and convenience features.
He says GKM Pay was developed out of the recognition that customers wanted safe, affordable and convenient financial services.
We are focused on being cutting edge in delivering financial services and have a good success and a long track record of leading the way at First Global Bank. Give First Global Bank a round of applause, please. Allied Insurance Brokers, GK General Insurance, Grace Burnett is here, Western Union, thanks for those kind words, Sean, Bill Express, and FX Trader.
Don Webby says the GKM Pay will allow more Jamaicans to have greater access to their services.
Once the requirements are met, you can use GKM Pay to buy and sell and do a range of transactions from your mobile phones. The beauty about it is GKM Pay can be used by you and me as individuals and by big, small and micro businesses. Building out legislative and regulatory framework that allows new financial services as well as new ways of delivering those services will expand the competitive landscape and stimulate economic activity.
For BATV News, I'm Anthony Morgan.
National Commercial Bank Group Managing Director and Economic Growth Council EGC member Patrick Hilton says there's too much red tape and bureaucracy when it comes to doing business in Jamaica. He was speaking at the EGC's first quarterly report briefing held recently. Here's more.
The NCB Group Managing Director says bureaucracy is hampering economic growth.
Justice delayed is justice denied. So too is value. Value delayed is value denied. And so when we have unnecessary bureaucracy, when we have unnecessary red tape, the impact that it has in terms of the projects and so on that are important to support economic growth is that we either lose the projects, as has happened in many instances, or the performance of the project is undermined where the project already exists or where it is delayed in its implementation.
He says the EGC is committed to addressing this after recognizing the challenge it poses to growing the economy.
And just to independently verify that this was the case and to understand better what the issues were, the EGC met with the various stakeholders, both on the private sector side as well as the public sector side, in terms of trying to find a way to solve this problem. How do we facilitate a more enabling environment?
Mr. Hilton says the island will see a more facilitating environment with the execution of the Council's recommendations to reducing bureaucracy.
Based on the review of previous studies in the area, has come up with a series of initiatives which have been outlined in, I think it's page 7 of this report, and reported on in terms of the status of those initiatives. And you'll see that they are all on track in terms of its implementation.
For BATV News, I'm Anthony Morgan.
Minister of Tourism Ed Bartlett says government meetings with strategic tourism partners in the cruise and stopover sections have been bearing fruit. Minister Bartlett says based on the evidence, cruise shipping and stopover arrivals continue to show record numbers, putting the ministry ahead of its target to have 5 million visitors in a single calendar year by 2020. Mr. Bartlett recently returned from a 5-day trip to Nassau, Bahamas, where he attended a meeting of the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Council of Tourism Ministers and Commissioners. He says the meeting provided a platform for discussion about the upcoming United Nations World Tourism Organization's International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development Conference and its overall benefit to the region. Jamaica will be hosting the event from November 27 to 29 at the Montego Bay Convention Center in Rose Hall, St. James. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have regional and international news. Welcome back. It's time now for regional and international news. Regional airline Liat has announced the first 2 routes that it will cut as part of its efforts to achieve greater profitability and improve efficiency. The airline says it will stop servicing the U.S. Virgin Islands beginning March 1 when it ends flights to St. Croix. It also says service to St. Thomas will end on June 14. In addition, Liat says it will suspend its flight between Guadeloupe and Dominica and introduce instead a return service between Antigua and the French-speaking island. The airline says the suspension comes after the completion of a route review exercise designed to help the carrier establish a reliable schedule that will fly on commercially viable routes going forward. This, Liat says, will offer the region a more consistent service. Chief Commercial Officer Lloyd Carswell says the decisions made have been driven predominantly by the need to enhance the operation stability of the airline and the quality of products for customers. A meeting of the shareholder governments last October saw St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves saying that the airline would stop serving countries that hurt its bottom line. As dry conditions ravage Guatemala, World Food Program representatives are examining the effects of 3 consecutive years of drought. Nathan Frendino reports.
In drought-hit Guatemala, those taking a swing at farming are coming up empty. The little that grows here is simply not enough, and it's worrying World Food Program officials like Gustavo Alas. They have had losses from 80 to 85% of their basic grain, he says, which is the main crop here, so they do not have the necessary food in the season where they build up their stock. 3 consecutive years of El Niño-linked drought have exacerbated poverty and hunger in the country of 15 million. The World Food Program, or WFP, says the European Union will invest $4.2 million to support families most affected by droughts, including subsistence farmers like those here in Guatemala. The investment aims to improve land productivity and food security, though WFP recognizes despite the intervention, 5 to 10% of farmers and their families will resort to immigration. Farmer Selvin Adolfo knows several who've left. For him and others who've stayed, the outlook is bleak. Here, it's not time for the mountain to be dry. The mountain right now should be green, he says. But unfortunately, the rain we've had here usually lasts 7 months. But right now, they've lasted 2 or 3 months. And without that rain, the crops and any money from selling them will only dry up.
The U.S. trade deficit fell more than expected in December as exports rose to their highest level in more than 1.5 years, outpacing an increase in imports. Fred Katayama reports.
The U.S. trade deficit fell more than expected in December. Exports rose to their highest level in more than 1.5 years, outpacing an increase in imports. U.S. companies shipped a record number of advanced technology goods in industries like aerospace, biotechnology, and electronics. Charles Schwab's Omar Aguilar says the outlook for exporters will depend on the direction of the dollar.
A lot of that depends on where the dollar goes. I think the dollar will play a big role, this year and into next year. And we have seen the strength of the dollar, for the last few years. I think, as you mentioned, it peaked early this year and since then has, reduced its value. A lot of the strength in the economy should be good for the dollar, which has natural implications for exporters.
Another big factor influencing American trade, U.S. President Donald Trump. He has blamed U.S. policy for the loss of jobs in the country. He pulled the U.S. out of the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Pact and is getting ready to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement. But economists who spoke to Reuters do not believe these protectionist measures will eliminate the deficit.
Ground staff at Berlin's 2 commercial airports, as well as in Hamburg and Stuttgart, have staged a temporary strike in a dispute over pay. As Ivor Bennett reports, is the latest in a series of industrial disputes disrupting services at German airports.
It's an all too familiar sight for some in Germany at the moment. This time, the airport disruption was due to strike action by ground staff at Berlin's 2 commercial airports. 156 flights were cancelled.
This is my first time overseas. We've just been on a 3-week trip around Europe and it's been pretty good. And I was pretty, excited to get home and all that. And now it's just like not happy.
The 6-hour walkout over pay also disrupted services at Hamburg and Stuttgart airports.
The basic wage is €10.30, and most of our employees make between 11 and 12 euros, so we want €1 more per hour.
But after a series of strikes by staff at Germany's flag carrier Lufthansa, the patience of some travellers is wearing thin.
We've all had to cut back. I'm making less profit from the products I'm selling because I know if I ask for more, no one will buy them. The people at Lufthansa or elsewhere should think about whether it's better to have a job than no job.
That's not putting off these union members, though. 2,000 took part in the industrial action.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks is after the break. Welcome back. It's time now for Talking Stocks. 49 stocks traded today, of which 31 advanced, 11 declined, and 7 traded firm. The main JSE index advanced by 177 points to close at over 226,000. The junior index also advanced by 42 points to close at more than 3,000. Over 20 million units traded, valued at more than $243 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, over 552,000 units traded, valued at over $175,000 US dollars. Lasco distributors with over 9 million units changing hands accounted for 48% of market volume. Sagicor Real Estate X Fund was second with 3,600,000 units trading. JMMB Group accounted for over 2 million units, amounting to 13% of market volume. Jamaica Stock Exchange ordinary shares was the top advancer, up $2.23 to close at $9.43. Followed by Main Event Group, up 6 cents to close at $2.61. And C2W Music, up 10 cents to close at 55 cents. The main decliners were Kingston Wharves, down $1.95 to close at $31.11. Followed by Key Insurance Company, losing 20 cents to close at $3.50. And Supreme Ventures down 27 cents to close at $5.53. And that's all the news we have for this evening, but before we go, a recap of our top story. Main Events listed on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange this morning, making the company the first to list since the government re-implemented incentives for the junior market. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.